Welcome, welcome, welcome. So I am working very hard tonight. One of those nights, my eyes look a little bit red, and that is because it is late. And after this reading, I will be going to sleep. But I'm not tired, and I'm full of psychic, intuitive energy. Hence why I've done multiple readings just today. So let's go ahead. I've already concealed the identity, your identity. So that is good. So a chart for Lizzy. We got an Aries. And Aries Sun. And that's the reading. No, I'm just joking. Scorpio Moon, Aries Sun, Scorpio Moon. And then Scorpio rising. And with the moon, wow, just so directly rising with Uranus. Wow. Oof. Damn, that is something very unique. Very, very, very unique. Unbelievable to see that. 1 second. So Uranus, moon, and ascendant together. Let's get my crystals a little bit closer. I don't always bring them out, but sometimes I like to. Sun, in Aries over there, conjunct Eris, okay, and part of fortune, 6th house. And then we've got Mars conjunct North Node, Mars retrograde. It's so interesting. I've had this since I've been a professional astrologer. I'll have like readings, back-to-back readings, where there's just like these random things that are in common. Like literally the reading I just did had also a Scorpio moon, also a high degree Leo, retrograde Leo Mars. Like, what are the odds? So that's super interesting. I think there's one other scratchy. Maybe there wasn't anything else. But yeah, this is it's interesting. I've always had this this type of tendency to have similar charts back to back. So, okay. I do all my readings the same. I don't care. Obviously, like someone's more advanced in astrology, I'm not gonna go so deep into like the sun sign and stuff, but like I still like to talk about everything. I still think that there's some importance to zooming out and seeing it all for what it is, instead of like me just spending an hour talking about your vertex placement. I'm trying to give you an idea of what I think the stars say you are. I purposely avoided, seeing pictures of you. I've, talked to you a little bit, but I've kind of like X'd those conversations out. Like I really don't want to be affected by anything. I mean, as much as I can, right? Like I feel like I have like a button where I can be like, forget, but obviously there's some things we talked about. But still, whatever. It's part of the game. So you are exactly like my cat. It's crazy. My cat is Mika, my baby. She's an Aries sun, Scorpio moon, Scorpio rising. So that's pretty interesting. My girlfriend is Scorpio sun, Aries moon. So I understand this energy. I understand this type of person you are, right? A Martian. Excuse me, I'm a little bit dehydrated. I had a coffee, the latest coffee I've ever had. It's kind of an experiment. It was a weak coffee. I just got this new beautiful espresso. I think you probably saw my story. And it's like nearly a decaf, close to a decaf. And I'm trying it at this very early, I guess it's early in the morning, but me and my 6th house Uranus, I stay up really late and have my most intuition around this time and energy. So basically what I see here, just from the big three, is that there's a karmic impetus for you to, and we look at the North Node in Leo, there's a major karmic impetus for you in this lifetime to express yourself and to be a little bit selfish. Now I'm going to repeat that. There's a karmic impetus, a karmic push for you in this lifetime to be a little bit selfish, in the sense that you're allowing yourself to figure out who you are on a deeper level through self-expression. And this can come in so many different forms. It can come, as your moon in Scorpio talks about, like researching different things and spending time to learn about whatever you want to learn about, right? Like it's a very, very researchy moon, getting to the bottom of mysteries or things you're interested in. And then there is the Aries energy, which is way more about, it's similar. It's in the 6th house, so there's still a sense of service, like, because you are carrying on this south node, this karma. Charge my phone, of being the healer, of being the person who was the mother of the group of people, the person who selfless gave themselves to. And let me actually hit present mode for a second. Share screen. I just want to make sure. Okay, it's that one's still converting. Hold on. Okay, cool. So we see here what I've been talking about, that the North Node in fire, right? It's close to Regulus. So this is like, okay, remember how, I don't know if I told you this. This is proof that your intuition was correct, that I am the person for you. Because your North Node, aka the part of your chart that has to do with the destiny marker, where you need to be in this lifetime, where you need to get in this lifetime to get to your highest possible soul growth. Every lifetime we basically have like our tendency, kind of what we go to on default mode. And then there's this opposite part of the chart, which is like where we're trying to get. That's South Node and North Node. So the fact that your North Node is the exact same degree of Leo as my rising is it says everything. And also the fact that, I have people in my life, or my girlfriend who has a similar chart than you. That's another aspect of it too. And I just understand your chart. Its energies I'm very, very familiar with. Every single one of them that I'm going to explain this reading. It's a very interesting chart as well. So this whole fire impetus. So I believe that we choose the sun sign, or that the sun sign we have in this lifetime is less to do with the past. I think the moon sign is really like about our instinct. It kind of, I believe that it carries over. Not to say that we always have the same moon sign, but that it represents an instinct, right? So it's more based on the soul, while the sun is more of like this lifetime, like we take a sun sign because we're trying to like learn lessons associated with that, in my opinion. So with your chart, I think that your soul is really trying to learn lessons around self-starting, around having your own back, around just doing it, just going for it. And there's many different avenues, as I said. And this is shown by so many things. The fact that you chose to be an Aries sun conjunct Eris, which, by the way, Eris is very, very volcanic. So it makes you very, very Aries, and there's really like potential for like this explosive energy. But with that said, the part of fortune there is indicating which is a very interesting placement. I need to like actually look up what that means to have part of fortune conjunct sun, but I've never seen it. And I mean, the one answer is very obvious. It's that the highest energy, the highest manifestation of Aries in the 6th house is something of unbelievable karmic significance to you, right? So before we jump into all this other stuff, what does that mean? 6th house Aries, like what does that really mean? Like what is the achievement? So the first thing I would say, you got that trine, you got like a little bit of a grand trine going. It's with the sun, it works, Mars, Sun, Neptune, definitely an elemental grand trine. So that's a very intuitive grand trine, Sun, Mars, Neptune. And aspect patterns aren't something that I am. I'm not going to say they're the thing I'm always looking for, but when they're obvious, they're obvious. Yeah, so sun in the 6th house, 6th house is about being of service. It's about how in this lifetime, your health, your physical health, your routine, your day by day actions, your work, right? Like your day, like if you're working for someone or for yourself, or like I guess it's more like it's the house of servants. So 6th house is more if you're like an employee, but like your work and your service to humanity. Those things, like in Aries. So like being someone who pioneers a routine for yourself, which by the way, let's swing it back. Astrology, it's a cosmic puzzle I'm solving in my head right now. You're going to have a very unconventional routine. You're like me a little bit, right? It's fucking 6:33 a.m. right now, and I'm just had a coffee. And I'm up. I have a basketball game on. I'm not really watching. Just looking at the score once in a while and doing this. So, yeah. But the fact that you have Uranus rising, you're going to be a very unconventional person. So that also relates to this routine, to how can you find a routine? How can you find a lifestyle that works for you, that's completely unique to you and your soul? Aries links in because Aries is the first sign. It's a new start, a new beginning. And it ultimately just kind of it's very independent, right? It's a young energy. So with the South Node in Aquarius in the 4th house, like I said, there's been past lifetimes where you've been, you feel very comfortable in the role of the supporter and the role of the giver and the role of the humanitarian. And in this lifetime, it's like, how can you still be that, right? Because 6th house is still very humanitarian. And then, of course, you have Jupiter, and midheaven in the 11th house. So there's still, you're still carrying over this ability. Hey, Mika, come here. This ability and this love for humanity and this desire and almost this huge part of you to be there for the people, right? But it's to do that in a different way, to do that in a way that's independent to you. So that's kind of how I see that. And 6th house is about health too. So taking care of yourself physically. I see Virgo like Jupiter. So like making sure that workaholism isn't really coming up, because there can be a huge link between your physical health and like your mental health, and the amount like if there's like perfectionism built in any way, which just gave me an idea for a video that I must stop the share. I need to write this down. It's a good one. It's a good one. 1 second. But anyway, so one second. So, you know, that ultimately is like how everything is going to be at its best, right? Okay, 1 second. So like most. Okay, I just have to write that down. Got it. So how are things going to be at their best? Well, you're going to have structure in your life, but it's going to be a structure that's not based on what society tells you your structure should be and what society, like conditions in us. It's going to be you as a Scorpio moon in the first house rising. You have very strong emotions. They play a huge part of your personality. You're a very emotionally expressive person. So, you're a Scorpio who has their emotions, on their sleeve. Where's your emotions on your sleeve? Whatever the freaking English expression is, I can't remember. And the fact that's conjunct Uranus is this is a huge indicator of psychic ability. One of the biggest. Uranus conjunct Moon. It means that it gives you, especially when the moon's in already mystical and psychic Scorpio. So I have no doubts that you have incredible abilities in the occult and the esoteric and in all that's hidden, right? And all these subjects you're so interested in, your superpower, like especially Pluto 12th house just goes on and on. So that's like the first thing I'm seeing is just like, how can you at the same time not give up on like, whatever it is, the big goals you have, the group orientation, like the tribe, all that stuff. Still, it's still always going to be a part of you to be group oriented, to be collectivist in that type of way. But how can you add a little bit more of individuality, which in the end ends up helping the group? It ends up helping the whole when we can go within ourselves. So a perfect example of this is creativity. I don't know. I can use myself as an example. When I'm creative, even if that means like, like I wrote my book, right? It's not about, this is the essence of like North Node in Leo conjunct Mars and Leo. So this is really important. This is not about, let's say you have a book. It's not about writing the book for how many it sells. I don't even know how many I've sold. Like I literally haven't looked at my report in like probably 7 months. Like honestly, I literally have no idea. I literally don't know. Because it was never about money. It was never about that. In fact, it would be depressing if I've sold a decent amount, an amount I'm proud of, but that's not the point. It was never the point. So that's kind of a metaphor, right? For like what I'm talking about here is, 1 second, is how can you create? And in the process of creation, like when I wrote my book, I learned so much about myself. I unlocked so much. I'm able to go through my life now and like, oh yeah, and like I talked about this in my book, and so it's like a reference point. It's like it was beautiful, and I feel like I learned so much about myself through that, and that's the essence of creativity. There's no shapes or form that has to take. It's whatever clicks for you. So that's sort of like what I'm seeing as a huge part. There's a big need for a creative outlet. Now, with Scorpio in the picture, right? So that's kind of Aries, but then also making sure like that there's like a karmic, really important karmic aspect of health and routine and doing things the right way, and having that kind of way to get to where you want to get. Now, Scorpio Moon, the first house, Scorpio Moon is very, very deep. It's very, very psychic. Let's see what aspects you have. Opposite Venus, square Mars, so that, and square, okay. So you got some difficult aspects. Square, okay, and it's square the node. So this is a skip step, right? So this is very based on past lives, your moon and all the aspects it has. Read this in a little bit. And the fact that it is opposite Venus, for example, and square Mars would mean that it creates a T-square, which shoots out. A T-square is opposition in a square. And it's like a bow and arrow, and it shoots out. And the area that shoots out, which is 25 Aquarius, is your south node, by the way. That's where the resolution is. So basically, to break down this T-square, moon opposite Venus means that your emotional needs, your moon, what makes you feel comfortable, which is that Scorpio Moon. Scorpio Moon, the need to be able to express your emotions, your darkest emotions, the need to be able to go through this this metamorphosis, this deep psychological, spiritual metamorphosis, and like I said, be able to express all of your moods, dark, light, whatever, the ups and downs that comes to the Scorpio Moon that you're well aware of, right? Especially when there's Uranus there. Uranus can make it extra, just like crazy, not crazy like crazy, but just very, very lots of sharp downloads and energies coming in, and it can be like riding like a fucking Ferrari or like a really, really hard to handle horse, but a horse that's super fast. So basically, the way I see it playing out is how, one sec. Actually, let me see one thing. Yeah. So the emotional need associated with yourself is very deep. It requires a lot of alone time, a lot of reflection, a lot of introspection. But then Venus, which represents what you value, it represents your love language, it represents lots of things, the arts, the beautiful things in life, is in Gemini. So spoken from a relation, and it's in the 8th house. So this speaks to how there's an opposition, aka a need to balance out, in a very difficult one, between your moon, but actually you have a 0 degree. Wow, you have a 0 degree Venus. That's a critical degree. So that means that this is a very, very new energy. And that this area of life, love, you can feel like you have a very new karmic chapter in this area of life, love life. But the fact that there's an opposition, and it makes the energy kind of weak. It's two super different energies. The Gemini Venus it requires so much variety. It's so curious when it comes to love. It really they get a bad rap for being the ones who are they need to have a very stimulating, intellectually stimulating partnership. So that's an opposition, but it's not an opposition by sign, because it's actually in Gemini. It's not in the opposite sign of your moon, so it's not going to be as heavy as an opposition. Yeah, it still exists. And yeah, so basically there's this really deep emotional Scorpio Moon, and then this Venus in Gemini that's way more fun, way more out there, way more wanting to experience a lot, while the Scorpio Moon doesn't really want to trust that many people. The Gemini Venus wants to run around and meet different people, in the relationship sense. They'll lots of Gemini moons will date around, and when it gets boring, they can kind of just be out, and that's why they get a bad rep. But really, it's they might enter a relationship just because they're curious about the person's intellect, So then you add the square to Mars, and the square with Venus and Mars is it's a highly sexual energy, I'm going to say, but also from the standpoint of the psychology of it, and then the square, how the Mars squares the moon, that to me is frustration. That the moon square Mars. I spoke about that in one of my recent posts, and how it can create like a lot of impulsivity or the emotional needs. Like there can be like kind of this dominance, like where there's a real need for the emotional needs to be met. If they're not, it's a very impulsive energy. But the fact that you have your Mars in retrograde is actually fortunate in this case, because it makes it so. I mean, it does frustrate the Mars and Leo. Here's Esmond. But it makes it so you're not like so quick to lash out, right? But then the Mars square Venus. Am I still on share? No. So the Mars square Venus, like that is another one of these like kind of feminine masculine energies that are at odds, right? The Mars and Leo part of you wants this like creative expression, this creative expansion. It wants you to really, and also the retrograde karmically has to do, and it's linked to your North Node. It is saying, it's literally backing up what I said before, that there hasn't been enough action in past lives. It's either that there's been too much or there hasn't been enough. But the fact that I see all these other indicators, it makes me think that there hasn't been enough of this Leo action. And you're here, and it's so interesting that you come to me, because I literally am that. Like I literally am that. Like I am 28 Leo rising, like, and my South Node is in Leo. So we have opposite South nodes and North nodes. So literally your lesson is what I'm already a master at. And my lesson is what you're already a master at, which is very karmic and interesting. So they're at odds, because that Gemini Venus, it's a very weak, weak energy at 0 degrees. So it can definitely get pushed around in these aspects. But in essence, like in the Mars, the Mars wants to have that self-expression, that inner child, that going deep within, while the Gemini is kind of like a social butterfly energy. It's not very deep, right? It's not very profound, like the Scorpio, or in Leo. I find it to be a very sensitive sign, and I don't like, there's some bad press about Leo. I don't buy into a lot of it. Of course, there's bad, it just gets highlighted because Leos are just kind of being shat on in today's day and age, because, it's about free expression and being yourself and being different. Same with Aquarius. Aquarius is more subtle about it, right? So that's what I see with that. So the resolution to like these as a whole is the 4th house. It's very close to the South Node. So it's actually kind of bringing back some of these past life elements into the formula, into the picture. 4th house is the family. It's like the inner emotions. It's like, and it's an Aquarius. So it does come back to being of service. So it is saying that, there is still an element of you that requires this going deep within yourself, which is very, very close to your Scorpio Moon anyways, because that's what the 4th house is. I'm gonna share my screen again. And let me check one thing really quickly too. Okay. Share screen. So yeah, the T square, this opposition, and then this one here, boom, 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 it shoots out here. So that's basically saying that, yeah, the more you're able to kind of get deep within yourself, while also being, like connected to your family, connected to your soul family, connected to humanitarianism, whatever that means to you, whatever being a service to humanity means to you. It's different for everyone. It doesn't mean just quit your day job and just join a charity and do that nonstop. it can mean many things. Like I consider me what I'm doing, for example, and sorry for using myself as an example. It's just like it's very easy, and especially when I have similarities in a chart to someone. Like my Aquarius North Node is me like taking the time to write posts and give reduced rates for astrology readings, and I could charge way more, stuff like that, right? So it can take many different forms. It's not just like giving money to poor people or working at a food bank. It's being selfless. And that, will help a lot of kind of this karma. So with the Scorpio moon though, conjunct Uranus, you definitely are someone that needs to pay attention to your dreams. I think we talked about this. Sorry, I talked to so many people that it just blacks out who I've said what to. But you definitely need to be dream journaling. That's my homework for you, because you with Uranus will get or dream journal or meditation journal. Like these are so important for you because you have this gift of having the Uranian energy, which is the thunderbolts that just imagine these thunderbolts of intuitions and downloads that come to you, but they only come when you can quiet your mind. And it can be difficult for the Scorpio moon, right, to quiet their mind. Because the Scorpio moon, the internal environment can be very dark. They're very in touch with their shadow. They're very like, they can be cynical because they understand, but they also like have these built-in lie detector, right? This built-in lie detector, and this is something me and you have in common. We understand how bad humanity and humans can be, and it's not that we expect it in others, but it's like we're not naive. You're not naive at all. So that's kind of the connection I make with that. And I just think it's really important, like in this lifetime, for you to like, because with the fact that you have your moon conjunct the ascendant, that's just like you're meant to express your emotions, even the ones that are dark, and to be very brave with them. And when I go back to the whole dreaming thing, that those go hand in hand. Whether it's poetry, whether it's whatever it is, there's some form of self-expression that's needed, right? So that is massive. How you can find that, whatever that portal is for you. Another way that this moon conjunct Uranus can show up, though, is even though you're so it can create this kind of push and tug or push and pull or whatever, where on one part of you want these relationships that are very close, soul bonding, eighth house. You know how it is. You have an eighth house Venus too. So it's like in relationships, you're gonna, there's gonna be part of you that's gonna really want this like two souls coming together, twin flame type thing. But then Uranus is the great liberator. So it's gonna kind of add like an Aquarius kind of twist to it, which will make you sometimes like go back and forth between wanting to be really close and wanting to kind of be released in having this big need for freedom. Because you'll find that when you're alone, which the Scorpio moon is the recluse, it's the person, they like to spend time alone. They like to not be loners necessarily, but they like to spend time alone. It's very important for them to recharge their batteries. And you'd find that you like this energy is way more likely to come when you have that space. So if a relationship gets, let's say, too close, like which one part of you might, and we should definitely talk about this in the follow-up, how this plays out. You might really find like, shit, okay, I'm getting this part, the Scorpio part met, the eighth house part met, but not, the really important part about my self-actualization, my individualization, which is shown all over your chart. It's shown by the fact that you're Aries sun. It's shown by the fact that you have fifth house Mercury and Pisces. It's shown by the fact that your North Node is in fucking Leo, conjunct Mars in Leo, retrograde, right? It's shown in the fact that you have first house moon rising in Scorpio, conjunct Uranus. Like it's all over your chart that you're here on so many levels. Like on the water level, you're here to like karmically transform your emotions And a big helper to that is these Uranian downloads. But like I said, there can be impulsivity. You have to watch out for that. I mean, of course, it's a lot better than having a moon square opposite Uranus, but there can definitely be impulsivity. It can be, there can be lots of instability, emotional instability. So it's really important for you to have those grounding practices. And when we look at your chart, do we see any Earth? I don't see any. I see a Jupiter in Virgo, but I don't see, that's a middle planet. I don't see any inner planet. And this is exactly what my last chart just had too, which once again, it's so interesting. So it's this goes back to the fact that you have a 6th house, which is Virgo's house, sun, which is so important because that has to do with grounding yourself too. Has to do with being consistent. Has to do with setting up structures in your life that no matter how many times you fail, you keep trying to come back to. For example, let's say meditating is something that really, really helps you, which I imagine it would be amazing for you. But you call yourself a bad meditator. It would be about going back and continuing to try, even if you fail. I'm gonna do 5 minutes today. I'm gonna time myself for 5 minutes even if I just mess up. And when we do I have no idea. You might be like a guru, so who knows? But if that's something that you've struggled with, I'm also a very good meditation coach. But I have no idea. You're probably amazing. You're probably better than me in meditation, or more advanced than me. But I'm just saying that's something that I've taught a lot of people through counseling, because there are so many misconceptions about meditation. But that's massive, because when you don't have Earth, it's difficult to and especially when you have Neptune in the 2nd house, which my last reading just had also. This is crazy. It's not crazy. I'm so used to it, but that gives you a distorted view of your own self, which can be very difficult for self-esteem. You see? So when it's difficult to have a fair kind of image of what you are and what you represent, right? Neptune, the 2nd house, is our values. So it kind of our sense of security and things like that. So it kind of clouds that. And that's difficult, right? That's very difficult. Sense of self-worth, right? It's very linked to self-esteem. And then we have, Venus, which is love and self-love. In Gemini, what it can do is it can, kind of make that very up and down, that process, or that feeling. And when you have a Scorpio moon, you feel things so fucking emotionally. You're such a sponge for energy that, there can also be shame, undeserved shame. So the point is that T-square is, the 4th house, which is maybe connecting to your ancestors, connecting to your inner self, right? Connecting to your inner self is the way. And there's so many different ways that you're able to do that. So moving forward, we talked about, so moon is also, I'm gonna show my face again. I wish I could do both at the same time. Okay, full screen. Okay, so moon is also squaring Jupiter. So what can happen with moon square Jupiter is there can be almost an overabundance, an over expansiveness when it comes to emotional nature. It can make people take lots of risks. So that's one thing to look out for. Have an over, sometimes think that they can do exceed, think that they can accomplish unrealistic things, or put out too much on your plate is a better way of putting that. So yeah, lots going on with the moon. But like one thing also about Moon and Uranus is that there'll be like a lot of changing of your mind, like constantly changing your mind, not really knowing what you want, except that you want change. And there can be like lots of impulsive fast action, right? So like the key is to have this like, set of values that you subscribe to that you can base your decisions off of, right? Because there's like this compulsive need for stimulation. And it's a very exciting life, but like it's not very good for like relationships a lot of the times, right? Because it can create lots of eccentric behaviors and a very super independent nature. And as we all know, in relationships, compromise is what's really important. So that's kind of what I see there. And that, along with the Venus and Gemini, can make one sometimes just like really, really drawn to the new and shiny. So it's like, the Scorpio Moon, the highest energy of that is like going within and really, really like going through these death, rebirth transformations where you might not even recognize yourself on an emotional level. Like I know a lot of people, this happens to everyone, but to people that have I just said this, the Scorpio Moon, they can go through these emotional, like shedding of the skin transformation, death, rebirth transformations, where they can't even recognize who they were. Like it's almost like it was another lifetime who they were in different eras in their life. They can break their life emotionally into like different eras where like some people kind of stay relatively the same. Some people have like, like big changes, but it's like it's massive changes. So there can also be like lots of moving with this one. But it makes someone who's like very open-minded and open to experiment and try new things, which is something I think is very interesting. And then of course, Uranus ruling the future, there can be like, a psychic potential. And a lot of times there's like a very unorthodox like upbringing. And there can be, a struggle between finding emotional nurturing and detachment and independence, which is what I've been talking about, right? And it's really about finding that balance, like emotional nurturing, Scorpio Moon, detachment, independence, which so much of the rest of your chart talks about. So, so it's really important for you to find a way where you can, I think of like Tupac as like a random person that has his moon rising. Like lots of like artists have that, right? Because their moon, their emotions get put out there. They become a part of their personality, and then they become artists, right? Instead of being hidden, they become shown, which is like that's really what it is. And with the Uranus there, it's like it's really, really meant to be someone who beats the beat of their own drum as opposed to someone who follows. And that goes through that deep, deep excursion into your own personal underworld, which is like, your life's work is the shadow work, one of the most important things that you do. And it's kind of cool because it's like in the first house, it would kind of indicate that like, I know you're such a private person, but I don't know. Like if I saw this and I didn't know anything about you, I'd be like, maybe it's something that's private or that's not private, that's public, that's stated, right? Where you're able to kind of like let these things out and learning to be vulnerable, right? So let's see. So the sun, opposite Pluto, obviously a very difficult aspect. And the moon square the nodes, that kind of just like compiles everything I've said about your moon. It just shows that it's like based on a skip step, which I have right here, a skip karmic step. So when the moon squares the moon's nodes, we can anticipate unresolved issues with the family of origin from past lives, with the formation of the personality and with the emotional body. So unresolved karmic issues with the family of origin, probably the mother, right? With the formation of the personality and with the emotional body, there may be specific unresolved material involving the mother or primary caregiver, There will be an inherent insecurity in the personality via tendency to project the experience of security or happiness outside the self onto the family or significant others. This placement may indicate unresolved gender issues from past lives. There may be dissatisfaction with gender roles, with issues stemming from patriarchal bias of our culture and the resulting suppression of the feminine. Or there may be a recent gender switch in between this incarnation and the previous one, resulting in a strong identification with the opposite gender. So that's a possibility too. I'm curious what you think about that. And you also have Venus. So you got another T-square between your south node. Well, I guess it's like a square, but yeah, between your nodes, south node, Moon, and Venus. Venus also squares it, which is interesting, and Uranus too. So we have more of these to read. So with Venus squaring the Moon's nodes, we're looking at unresolved material pertaining to how a person relates to themselves. So it's like self-esteem, self-image, that kind of stuff, which I already talked about, and therefore the way they relate to others. The range of possibilities can extend from extremes of isolation to excessive social activity that leads to a loss of identity through exhaustion, which is like, interesting because like the Scorpio Moon can't take that. It needs its time alone. This placement can indicate an issue with projected meaning or not seeing the true reality of others due to our transference onto them. We might transfer unresolved issues onto our partners and friends, co-opting them to play roles in our own inner drama. This placement can also refer to a life-threatening situation whereby the self has become highly anxious, causing great difficulty in relating to its own needs. It can indicate a situation whereby the person needs to learn to be alone, to love and accept themselves before being able to meet others on an equal footing. So it's very, very interesting. It's almost like, yeah, it's very, very interesting. And then finally, I don't know if the Uranus one is also super important. This is a huge one. So get ready for this. This is the last one. And you have 3 planets square the node. That's quite a bit. So this is a very karmic lifetime for you. And then you have Jupiter and Mars opposite the nodes. Damn. So you got a lot. Yeah. I mean, Mars is conjunct the north node. So that means that, this Mars energy, this is something you've been working on for many lifetimes to this self-expression thing. This Leo thing is something you've been working on. You've been working on this fire energy, which is like this finding passion. So much of it is finding passion, finding true soul inspiration. And a lot of that comes to that Scorpio Moon's deep exploration within. So when Uranus squares the Moon's nodes, the unresolved material indicates a need for liberation from conditioning and liberation from the past. This stems in part from past wounding and from exposure to excessive conditioning influences in past lives. With this placement, the nodal axis of the Moon can be understood as a trauma signature, indicating that the unresolved trauma is a critical part of the skip step. An analysis of the house and sign, aspects to the skip step planet, and aspects to the nodal axis of the Moon will help identify the nature of this unresolved trauma. Let's put an X in that and see that it's in the first house, conjunct the Moon. It's trauma of you not feeling safe, which now I'm connecting this all to how private you are, because in a past life, I believe that you putting yourself out there caused you pain or even suffering or even trauma. So you're very, very careful because you still have these past life memories or trauma of when you let that Scorpio Moon energy out. But in this life, it's kind of asking you to let it to let it out. And maybe it's just about letting it out to the right people in the right situations, right? Yeah, it's really interesting. So this also symbolizes a crisis in individuation, which is what I've been talking about this whole time. The person has started to detach themselves from prior conditioning, but they have either not been able to maintain this process or they remain blind to a critical aspect of how the conditioning imprisons them, which then results in a block to the true expression of their individuality. Wow, that's interesting. So they may remain blind to a critical aspect of how the conditioning imprisons them, which then results in a block of the true expression of their individuality. So this can indicate this placement can indicate a specific fear or post-traumatic stress that blocks access to the true self. It's a past life trauma signature here. It can also mark the need to reintegrate some former illumination that has been lost or resisted, which you have, Jupiter in retrograde too. So I think this is also like very true, and relating to like a need to kind of like maybe having been fooled in a past life in some way, like with information or with philosophy. Where was I? So it can also mark the need to reintegrate some former illumination that has been lost or resisted. This is a powerful requirement to embrace the transformational nature of the self. Regression work or depth therapy can aid in the recovering of deeper unconscious material, both traumas and gifts. This placement emphasizes the importance of the Uranus opposition. So interesting. And the Uranus opposition, I think that happens, what is it, at 42? So, and you're approaching that age, or you are that age, aren't you? So that's crazy. I think it's at 42. Let me search. I could be totally wrong. Yeah. 42. So this is like fucking so synchronistic. It literally just said that like the age you're currently at, 42, when you have the Uranus opposition, where it's made one half round, because it takes what, like 80 something years to go around the full zodiac. So it's made one half round around your zodiac. Because yeah, it's close. I mean, it's not quite there, but it's getting very close to being there, because your Uranus is 25 Scorpio, and right now it's at like 15 Taurus. So in the next few years, this is like really, really gaining importance, gaining steam. So yeah, individualization is so important. And so it's done through the Scorpio way of shadow work and of complete bare honesty, tears, all that stuff, whatever it has to be done. So yeah, then with that Mercury, how you communicate in Pisces, I have Mercury in Pisces, so it's like that just makes you super creative and very metaphoric. That's why you're really, that's another really good indicator of us as a very, very strong therapeutic alliance. And that is because Mercury is how we speak and how we talk, or how we think and how we speak, right? So to have it in the same sign is as me means that we have a similar way of thinking. And Mercury Pisces is very, very metaphoric. It thinks in a very spiritual way. It's connected to source, right? It's very, very like one astrologer once told me that it represents like the connection to the other side. And it can be a little bit vague, but like it's really, really good for like learning about like things that are beyond words, right? 1 second. Hold up. Looking for something. Hold on. So yeah, so the Mercury in Pisces in the fifth house is the house of self-expression. So once again, it quite literally asking you, that's like kind of like the like where a poet would have their and it's by itself in the fifth house of Pisces. So like that's like, yeah, like you have imagination through your writing, through your speaking, and how can you put that into some creative outlet? It's so important for you. I only say this when I really mean it, when someone like really like needs a creative outlet and it's a huge part of their chart. Okay. So with Mercury also, you have to know that like they're like some people that have Mercury Pisces, there's like a certain level of like, how do I say this? Like, because they might just have a really different learning style. And because of that, they may have like been told like when they were younger, that they were like not that smart, or like they may have like maybe like school was difficult for them because they were able to understand super high metaphoric philosophical concepts, but then like the really easy like logical shit like is difficult, right? Like for me, I can understand anything, but if you ask me to put together like an IKEA thing, I just can't do it. I just like, I hate it. I can't do it. So that's kind of a funny metaphor for that. Let me see one thing really quick. Yeah, I skipped I'm just counting how many people I skipped to have your reading done so soon, because I'm hoping we can start those sessions next, soon. I really look forward to it. I like just looking at your chart. I'm passionate about this astrological counseling thing. I want this to be like my main thing long term. And this chart, it's just everything you told me. I just see so much there. It just makes me very excited. So let's see. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's not too many. It kind of is. Not really. Skip 9 readings, but whatever. Anyways, so as I was, where did the nail chart go? What just happened? Where's my solar fire? Where did it go? What the heck? So bizarre. Did it shut down? Oh, there it is. Okay. So that was very weird. Okay. So yeah. So that's like, yeah, kind of with the Mercury. And the Mercury, what's it doing aspect wise? Well, this is like this is like one of the most psychic readings I've had in a while. Like I'm literally just saying things, and then like the astrology is like backing up what I just said. So the fact you literally have Mercury's opposite Saturn, that literally backs exactly what I just said. I didn't even see that aspect. It backs it up. Then maybe like what I just said about the intelligence thing, about learning in a different way, speaking maybe in a different way, that maybe like brought you shame in your early schooling, or with your your early group of friends, or even in groups of friends today, like being vague in communication, and just having like a different way of understanding life, and talking about and the things you're interested in, and the things you talk about, and the way you think. It's very spiritual, and some people might think like shame you for it. As a Scorpio Moon, who already has past life trauma around expressing their emotions and their true self, this can really make someone want to like completely like shut down and not express themselves. So it's like really all about like finding that safe place, that safe environment with which you can like completely express yourself, right? Let me fill this water up. It's like high pH water, which is good when you pick coffee. Oh fuck, I spilled. It's so good, the water. Oh my God. So yeah, this chart is really clicking. Really clicking. So yeah, so that's kind of that. Mercury square Saturn can make one like very like, especially like up to your Saturn return around 30 years old. You may have really had shame and really thought like maybe you had like a Capricornian kind of father who just kind of like, or not for sure, but like, like parent structure that just like made you like feel like you weren't smart, or like you were just different, or weird or something. And then you started learning about things like astrology. You're like, oh damn, I'm not. Mercury square Neptune. That is another very difficult one. Someone very close to me has this, and I've observed how it distorts how one receives information. It can make them very paranoid. It can make them like very, very creative on one end, but they can really like misread situations. Like, I'll give you an example. My girlfriend has this, and like we can be walking and someone starts laughing, like we're like in public, and she'll instantly think that they're laughing at her. Of course, that also has to do with her own insecurities or whatever, but like it's like that, or like I'll tell her something and she'll like misunderstand it or something, and it's not a bad thing. It's just that there's this gap, right, between reality and communication, but also you can like sometimes like lose your own thought processes to the group and kind of think that someone else's thoughts are your thoughts and vice versa. So it's very important to have that kind of like thought process. But this is something like magicians, and it's also like a potentially very psychic placement. But it's also another one, once again, that can have brought shame early on, right? Because it is so freaking different, and it gives you such an intense imagination. It just makes you really see the world through a different lens than other people. And it kind of creates like a very distorting influence, a foggy influence that can have an adverse effect on relationships, because you can start to see things in the way they are not, and have confusion. Think someone's like, for example, so make sure to not like become involved in lies, fraud, scandals, abusing drugs and alcohol, stuff like that, right? And it can make one very misunderstood, especially when young, which can lead to like insecurities of a mental or a nervous nature. And it can make someone like really go deeper and deeper into their fantasy world, and like being so sensitive with the Scorpio Moon, it can make one very sensitive to criticism or rejection. So it's really important to try to find spiritual or artistic types of people to hang around, people who really understand what that struggle is, and who understand you and who are curious about you. And that goes to the love stuff. The love stuff is like completely like that, right? With Venus, where is it? Where is it hiding? In Gemini, it's like, you're on one hand, and then you're have Taurus as your descendant. You want stability. So there's like these two things in love where you want this deep stability, this rock, right? Scorpio Moon, you need someone who can take you and understand you in all of your moods. That is so important. Someone who's curious. But then you also need someone who, and I'm not sure if you're single or whatever, but you also need someone who you can have that intellectual conversation, that intellectual connection, that high mind communication with. That's how the Gemini Venus is gonna 0 degree Venus is gonna be happy. And it is 0 degrees, so it's like it's a new energy. So it becomes almost kind of like you turning a new karmic page in love and in self-love too, which can be difficult, with the other aspects I saw, right? With the T-square it's involved in, opposite moon, square Mars. So yeah, it's just about going really, really deep into yourself. Journaling is a huge thing. Maybe writing your own version of my book. I don't know. Like, what is your worldview? What do you stand by? So okay. Venus is also square Jupiter. That's not a bad. That's like the best square in astrology. It just kind of means I think it's good. I think it leads to popularity. I think it's the only square that's not bad. The fact that they make contact, the two benefic planets, is a good thing. Some people may say it can make one overly expansive in love and relationships and have too high of self-esteem, but I don't think so. I think it just leads to popularity, and it's good for socializing and giving kind of a light, more cheerful demeanor, which can be difficult for like the Scorpio Moon, Scorpio rising person, because Scorpio rising makes the chart ruled by Mars, which is in Leo and retrograde, conjunct the North Node. So that's, making the Mars, a big part of your chart is action. How can you have action? Not thinking, not holding back, just action. So with the love stuff, there's also this big impetus around, finding a person, like I said, who has the excitement, but also the groundedness, right? Seventh house ruled by Venus, is just, in the eighth house is also like that Scorpio-ness, that eighth house romance of two souls coming together, like twin flame energy. Like that is totally, a massive part of this whole thing too. But it's, once again, with the Uranus, how can you like balance out that kind of like very impulsive nature with that part of you that, might want to, like be, not the word clingy, that's the wrong word, but just like very, very close. But then, so just like you need a rock, a fucking immovable, just very solid person that loves you very deeply and is there regardless, and really, really curious and trying to understand your nature. And it's, maybe like earth energy. Then Juno, where's Juno at? Juno's in Cancer in the ninth house. So that, can indicate that like your ideal mate, and then your vertex is also there too. There's a certain level of like, of you and your partner both wanting to kind of like mother each other, because the vertex is kind of like the ascendant of how you are in relationships. And in Cancer, and, maybe it's, it can be someone of a different culture perhaps, but like really it's like your ideal mate is someone that kind of mothers you and babies you a little bit sometimes, but then there's the same thing vice versa, right? Which is very interesting. And you can, through like travels, metaphoric and physical, like actually different cultures, you can gain a lot of insights into this. And with Juno in the ninth house and Cancer, you might be attracted to it. That kind of goes hand in hand with the Taurus one, right? Of like wanting someone who's gonna be that rock, be that person you can rely on 100% to be the same person day after day after day, because that's what you're trying to become. You're trying to become more earthy. But also maybe, it could be someone from a different culture, and if not from a different culture, someone who expands you philosophically, and on that level of finding ultimate truth. So, wow, you have so many of these aspects I talked about in my post. Crazy. So Mars conjunct Jupiter. That's Mars, Jupiter, and midheaven, and those four together. That's just basically like career is meant to be worked in like, it's important for you to find your tribe and to be able to like work in a group. It's super important. But then it's also equally important to, have your own stuff going on and have that independence, and that, everything we've talked about in this reading about related to like that self-creation. Midheaven is in Virgo, so like that is someone who could potentially have two careers, the hobby and the moneymaker. So that's very important. But the fact that you have Jupiter on your midheaven, that's like a guardian angel when it comes to career. And then you have Saturn in the 11th house. We'll talk about that in a sec. But anyways, with love, it's like I've kind of already explained it. It's just like the back and forth. Like there's lots of different things that are wanted and needed. But with the Mars square Uranus, that is a very, very impulsive energy. you know, like Mars square Uranus is like, you know, it's just like this is like your karma. We have so much to dive into in our counseling, because it's like this is a whole session can be dedicated to this. This just gives so much inventive and creative energy. But it can be like dangerous. Like it's like it can be like brilliant and genius, but it can be dangerous. It's like this raw, explosive, but like very impulsive energy. So let's see. And it can kind of like make you very, very rebellious. That can kind of like upset like more conservative, or like it can create the kind of person that just like goes against the rules no matter what the fucking rules are, right? Mad like rebel energy. So super like reactive sometimes, rash behavior. And it can lead to like how do you say that word? Being ostracized, kicked out. But there's this electric energy, and there's this massive need to have that physical. Mars is physical, that physical outlet. And when you have that physical outlet mixed with that creative outlet, whatever it is, that's when you start to get downloads, because you know Uranus is contacting another inner planet. You have Uranus super set, so you're trying to liberate yourself in this lifetime, and this is just another, you know, karmic impetus, right? Also, it creates a very electric energy, very, very like, you know, so like you want to channel it, you know, in an inventive thing, like acting, dancing, singing, even writing, right? You just have to be able to express yourself in a strong and bold way, and then you'll feel so happy. And the thing with that Leo is, even if no one's watching, right? And once again, this is another one that like romantically can talk about like a need for excitement and change, which can lead to like more than one marriage, or not even a marriage. So yeah. And you're best suited to for communities or societies that are really open-minded and progressive. That's what I really see for you. And like you really like need to like be around like a tribe or group of people where your original style is really able to flourish, right? Like, and the like conforming, there's no chance for you. Like you cannot conform. Like that destroys you. Like you're the most non-conformist person with Uranus rising. So cool. All right, Jupiter and Virgo. I mean, these are like very, very like just watch out. You got, oh, Charlie Horse. I nearly had Charlie Horse. Watch out for perfectionism. That's all I can say about that one. And we can talk more about these. I don't like going like too crazy with these readings. I've been doing like 2-hour ones, and it's just like I realize we have the follow-up, you know. But like Jupiter, you know, 11th house, that's really, really good for like having like an ever widening group of friends. It's very like I've known people who I used to think I had this. Well, I have it in Coach and Placidus. And I've always just had like so much luck wherever I move, just meeting new people, you know? So also it makes it so goals and visions are super important for you. And you really expand yourself through groups of people. And you know, in our counseling sessions, we'll also like look at like the current transits and stuff, and see like you know, because we already identified the Uranus opposition being huge for you, so perhaps that's also huge in the 11th house, which is groups of people, which is what Uranus Aquarius rules. Also Jupiter 11th house, you can really inspire large groups of people, so it's very like, you know, people who have this usually don't have problems making friends, but you know, as a Scorpio moon, you trust very few, so you get it. And then like a Jupiter and Virgo, it makes you really, really, it kind of complements that South node, like really, really wanting to be of service. And it's in the 11th house. So you really, really want to be of service. And like very high spiritual ideals. It's like gives you like this ability to have like earth magic. But like you have to watch out for the perfectionism. That is like the massive part. Okay, I had to pause to go to the bathroom. So yeah, that's kind of like the Jupiter watching out for that perfectionism, especially, but you have like a blessing when it comes to career. But then, okay, so you have Jupiter there, but you also have Saturn in the 11th house. So that's like a push and pull, because Saturn in the 11th house is the opposite. I've known people with Saturn 11th house, so many, and they are so picky and choosy when it comes to who they let in. And when you add that with the Scorpio, so the way I take your 11th house, and it's ruled by Virgo, is that you're very picky and choosy about like who you let in, your friends. They probably very high ideals that they have to fit. And your motto is probably like, I'd rather have a few, and most people are like this, but not everyone. A few, like, a few, even a very, very few, like good, true friends, than a lot of like kind of good friends. But like, yeah, like Saturn 11th house people, they just really like, it's just like, it's hard. Like it's like, it creates kind of like, I don't know, like a high barriers of entry to kind of make it into your world. And a lot of that can be linked to like past life trauma too, where, potentially Saturn, retrograde too, believing in that person, right? Believing in the group has led you astray. So I think that when you find the right group, that's when I think that Jupiter will show up. But I think that you're very, very careful about it. So, Chiron in the 7th, that's just going back to relationships. And that's saying, it's in Taurus, that maybe there could have been some like psychological, some like physical pain, I guess you could say. Like, but also could have been like a crisis of values when young. But when I see Chiron Cancer, I just think self-esteem issues that have to be really worked on, but also, and sometimes they're overcompensated by like money, possessions, but also it could be like a distrust for the body, a hate of the body, and a need to just like do things like yoga, meditation to really get embodied. And in the 7th house, it all relates to relationships. So you suffer from broken and painful relationships, right? Feelings of rejections by your partner. Maybe it's like the first relationship that really like are really affected you, maybe a marriage that went wrong, and at some point you have a partner who teaches you to overcome this, or you may be the one who teaches the partner. But overall, with the Scorpio Moon, it can kind of be a little bit somewhat like the Cancer, people, how when they get hurt, they go back in their shell, and it's really hard to trust. And I believe that you've brought some of this pain in from past lives, because your Venus is square, like mine, the South Node. So there's definitely that pain from this is a very lots going on in this chart. Aries conjunct Sun, I just said that just makes you like even more explosive, more like, just, yeah, it just kind of, it's a very volcanic position. So it just kind of makes you even more Aries than you already are. And you have to watch out for like outbursts, like anger outbursts and stuff like that. All right. Well, so yeah, Vertex 9th house, you can also have your doorway to higher awareness. Higher awareness can be from like foreign travels and just like diving into different philosophies. 10th house, North Node, and I talked about that a lot already, but like, in the 10th house, it's really saying that you're here to really do things on a career level and on a big picture dharma level. So you're really meant to like step out of your comfort level, and it's meant to be done with a group of people. So taking risks with finding a tribe and stuff like that is super important. Yeah, so basically just the 12th house left. 1 second, I'm gonna pause this for. Okay, I just had some technical difficulties. So yeah, kind of how everything wraps together is that there's so much energy when it comes to like friend groups, and wait second. Okay, sorry, my cats were going crazy. I was afraid they were going to break something. Anyways, okay, so 11th house, it's very karmic. There's I feel like there's lots of pain there. There's lots of energy there too. But it's definitely something we need to look at, is kind of how groups, friend groups, organizations, also like goals, like big picture goals, like kind of how that's worked itself out. And that can be done in the follow-up and counseling sessions as well. So finally, we get to the 12th house, ruled by Libra. This can make someone who's very, very sensitive to the needs of others. There can be like a fear of conflict as well. There can be like somewhat of like a karmic people pleasing sometimes. And you have Black Moon, Lilith, and Pluto there. So Black Moon, Lilith, and Libra, it says exactly what I just said. It's like putting other people's needs before your own in past lives, which is like so in line with the South Node in Aquarius, right? And not like allowing your own self to shine, yourself, for you to discover yourself. So also like South Node Libra, or like Black Moon Lilith, which isn't a planet. It's just like it has to do with like you at your lowest, like kind of where you go to. It can have to do with like gossiping, being in other people's business, and like being like really focused on other people's affairs instead of your own. And besides that, it could be like using people, being like not being like authentic, stuff like that, right? And then the big thing is like the people pleaser thing, which I was mentioning, where you're like having issues with boundaries and making decisions. And that's why I see that coming from the past, in past lives. And in this life, it's like you're meant, with all the fire, like to go deep down inside yourself and discover yourself, who you are, and then be decisive. And to be decisive, you have to have like, I subscribe to this value system. This is what I believe in. So my decisions will be based off of this. So finally, the grand finale is Pluto. And actually, no, before I do that, I want to scan stars. Yeah, I keep seeing Regulus like North Node. I don't know. I think fixed stars are more, if it's a luminary, the North Node's not actually a planet, so I just don't know to count it. But then again, you do have a 0-degree Jupiter, so once again, another 0-degree planet. It's saying that this is another lifetime, like another aspect of your chart where it's like, in this lifetime, you're really, really rewriting the script of like your belief system, and it's very, very new, very, very, very new. And you're like really meant to like go deep within yourself. Like when you have so many retrograde planets, like I made a post on the, I don't know if you saw it. One second. Okay, I accidentally opened a message as I opened Instagram that had like a lot of voice messages. I had to like say, I will answer these when I can. Mark as unread. hell is my retrograde? It's further down. Here it is. Okay. So I can copy it. Because you have Jupiter retrograde, Pluto retrograde, Saturn retrograde. You have every single, I think you have every one retrograde. Is Uranus? Yeah, Uranus. So you have every single one outer planet retrograde. So, you know, I think it's just easier if I send this to you and we talk about it next time. But like, you know, for example, Saturn retrograde, it talks about like helps us bear our karma and successfully pass our tests. Until we willingly accept self-discipline, we experience Saturn as feelings of limitation, deprivation, delay, blah, blah, blah. Saturn retrograde is your signal that you are redoing a lifetime. This signals this incarnation is your second chance. Telling you I talk about it in the reading. All right. Okay. 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 So okay, fixed stars. So yeah, so it's easier to you have to remind me of this stuff too. Discussing like the car like the all the retrograde planets, all the outers in retrograde. It's just like basically like kind of like internalizing in that there's like an underdoing or overdoing of all the archetypes. And I believe it's underdoing. In this life, it's just such a there's so much blank slate energy and so much creative energy potential. Okay, so now I'm just looking for fixed stars. Okay, nothing there. Nothing really there. Okay. Aries, we know that already. Okay. Yeah, Venus, nothing. Okay, nothing there. So I'm not pulling up any big fixed stars. I don't know what Aphrodite is like or what the fixed star is. So yeah, I'm gonna read you the Pluto 12th house. And I'm gonna go to bed. I'm kind of tired. Not super tired. So let's just share the screen and show the chart one more time. Let's take out all these. Let's actually add these ones. Just to make sure. Okay, let's just take these off. So yeah, the 12th house is saying all these things about, you know, watch out for people pleasing and not having your own back. We've talked about this. We see how it all relates. And then finally, Pluto in the 12th house. This is so beautifully written. I always access my Pluto book since I was a young astrologer. I wrote this a long time ago or took notes. So, okay, so the central issue is how to relate to creation as a whole. how to align. Oh, by the way, Pluto is kind of like the North Node in the sense that they're both like your real, like by following the North Node, it's like climbing the mountain you've never climbed in past lives. Pluto is like how you go through the underworld and get to a place where you're going through your own darkness, but eventually leads to the highest potential, highest growth. And it's like really, really common and has a lot in common with your Scorpio moon. So the central issue is how to relate to creation as a whole, how to align the individual consciousness with a transcendent belief system that allows for an experience of surrender to and or participation with the whole of life. So a need to identify and dissolve the barriers between individual and collective unconscious in order to align the personal energy with collective or transcendent ones. The evolutionary goal is to step out of the self and into the world of transpersonal, which is spiritual, mystical forces. Loss of control, which it seems like you're really doing that because your South Node, yeah, it seems like you're on a roll with that. So the loss of control can generate anxiety and phobias. This Pluto placement is saying that your next karmic step is to let go and trust the infinite ocean, which is the 12th house Neptune. This fear can be similar to fear of death. And the person may cling to materiality / whatever represents individual power to keep control. Jump off the cliff of Saturn, which is rock, into the sea of Neptune. That's such a beautiful metaphor. Saturn is all that's material. It's the world. It's the patriarchy. It's the reality, the consensus reality, and jump off that into the infinite spiritual pool of nonlinear Neptune. So there's a tendency to elevate rock / cling to it. So clinging to whether it's money, whether it's anything like that's within this world that's not spiritual. It can be through a relationship, subgroup, way of thinking, etc. Which way of thinking is shown by the Jupiter and lots of those retrograde placements, that you're really here to really reevaluate your way of seeing reality and finding truth. I feel like you were like tricked in some way in a past life, and you're like unconditioning yourself. If surrender happens, space and time can be rejuvenated and feel like playgrounds. The alternative is cycles of meaninglessness. The polarity point, which is like the healing, is, and this is such a beautiful way to end this, daily step-by-step techniques. Virgo energy, consistent work like meditation, prayer, mantra, self-analysis, also spirit grounded in service and groundings. I don't know what the grounding is. So spirit grounded into service. So beautiful, beautiful how that all came together. Amazing reading. Let's check the time. I need to sleep badly. Another close to 2-hour one. Great. But yeah, amazing. So yeah, we will be in touch and schedule a follow-up. That's the next step, and then we'll go from there. Or you can't see my face. There I am. So yeah, we will go from there. And thank you. Ciao, ciao. Bye-bye.